Back to the Access Act here, because
Yeah.
I know that's a major focus of what you've put. And you mentioned the criticism already from the other side that this is a step towards privatization, this is a step towards moving more care out of VA. So right now, about 40% of all VA appointments are in community care or private sector appointments. Is this an effort to push that number up higher, or is this an effort to make it easier to get those kind of appointments?
It is an effort to make sure that the veteran receives the care that they need, when they need it, where they need it, as soon as possible, and as what the doctor and the patient both agree to. So the increase of community care has a whole lot to do with the fact that and that's quite often, the big critics quite often are, one, they're wanting to protect the bureaucracy of the VA, okay? Don't worry, the VA is going to be the VA, okay? But the reality is that not everybody has a VA within 20 miles of the house. We have a whole lot of what people around here refer to as flyover country, that it can be a long way for that person to get to the VA. And it might be that that VA doesn't necessarily provide the necessary services at that particular VA that's closest to them that can be provided just down the street. We're going to make sure that this is done. That's why we did it. Remember, as I said, there's been this is a third bite at the apple with the Asset Act, because we originally had the choice. The choice had to be replaced. We used the Mission Act. The Mission Act, if implemented correctly, is the right step. Unfortunately, the administration at the VA, through our VISNs, one VISN gets it right, another one chooses to not. When we have one of the chief administrators of the previous administration sends out emails that says, don't make it where you can press in the easy button. Mm-hmm. No.
Well, I guess that speaks to some of the things, because even with the obstruction that you're talking about there, there's still quite a bit of use of community care. There's still a lot going out there. Right. So is the goal of the Access Act then to see if, or I shouldn't say the goal, do you think the Access Act will lead to more folks using community care, or do you think it's just a matter of it'll be easier to access?
It's easier, okay? I think that there have been certain people who have been denied community care, and we know that, okay, based on the previous administration. I believe that the access, it's going to send a clear message, and that's the idea and intent. I don't think, because I'm going to tell you, when I deal with my veterans, either here in D.C. or at home, they either love the VA or they hate the VA, okay? And quite often, if it's a bad experience they've had at the VA, and it isn't always on the medical side. Sometimes it's on that, trying to get a GI Bill and it wasn't good. And it's all those other things. And it can be, the problems that, and about my bill that is making sure that our veterans don't lose their Second Amendment right. There are those veterans that don't go to the VA because of that. But this is the idea and intent is to get more veterans to come use the VA and use the VA services, even if it is a community care service or at the VA itself.
Do you, and I know you've got several bills that are all related to that idea of how do we get those veterans, those communities that aren't engaged with VA back in some way, either community care or with the Second Amendment rights. Do you feel like VA is still oriented in that sort of outreach way, or is this focus on the taxpayer, the efficiency, some of the cuts here, is that sending a message out that VA is now looking to downsize or find ways to just do the minimum rather than to keep that outreach going?
No, I don't think that at all. I think that the VA is sending a message like other agencies. Now, some agencies they're going to cut, but VA is set to provide the services that we provide for our veterans. We're going to provide because we passed the PACT Act. The PACT Act makes sure that those people who maybe haven't had their rating yet can still receive those health care benefits that they should, based on toxic exposure. And obviously that sends a clear message that the VA is not going anywhere, but it needs to be more veteran-oriented and less bureaucratic-oriented, okay? And that is vitally important. And it is, and as I said, your veterans are taxpayers too. So they want to know, look, they fought for our freedom. They fought for our freedom. If we continue to go down this path of wasting money and not spending it wisely, that freedom can be taken by the people we owe a debt to. And that's a very dangerous situation. And all the things that they fought for could be lost. But we're not going to shut down the VA. We're going to make sure that the VA operates to do and provide each of them with their benefits they deserve. And we're going to fight for them. There is no doubt. Matter of fact, I've said over and over in committee when people have said this, that all this is being laid off, if you have someone and you don't want to go to your congressman, come to us and say, hey, we feel that this person was let go, or I'm not getting the proper services. That's what, look, let me tell you this. This is what remember, the secretary was a member of Congress. He said this: even though we'll do our job as Congress, if you come to me, we're going to argue on your behalf. He said, I want the VA to never have to have a person go to their member of Congress and say, I didn't get the right services. We want the veteran to know that they're the reason why we do what we do. And that's what he said. And so I think you're going to see it continue to be well.
So along that line, you're the point person for veteran policy here for the
Yep.
Republicans who control the House. Can you push through major legislation on veterans issues with all this other noise, with everything that? I mean, there's quite a few distractions in Congress right now.
I mean,
we're focused on some of the budget and reconciliation issues for the next few weeks here. But do you think that later this summer, later this year,
we're already moving forward? We had a markup. We've had several markups already. Mm-hmm. We actually have had.
But that's your committee. Your committee has been working very hard. Once it's out of this committee, can you convince the folks in leadership to act on these?
Sure. I mean, earlier, a week or so ago, we actually had the night on the floor where we moved several pieces of legislation. We're going to continue to do that because there's certain changes all the time that you realize, oh man, maybe we ought to do that better. Maybe we ought to do this better. If we had a law, do that. And it working in a bipartisan manner, we've been able to move several pieces of legislation, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay. What about the VA budget? I know you're not an appropriator, but do you think that the money is going to be there to keep supporting this? VA has seen some very significant increases in past years, and I know there's been some criticism about, does this become an unlimited check? We've heard that from Secretary Collins say, I'm not looking to just get unlimited money, but I do need resources.
Correct.
Do you think that since that falls outside of the defense area, there is going to be more of a fight and more scrutiny with some of the veteran spending?
Let me tell you that the intent of Congress is to provide for our veterans. And so the appropriator, Judge Carter, he and I are in communication on a regular basis. We do want to make sure that we provide. However, remember last year during the last administration, we have discovered in a AG report, they lied to us about the money they needed. So our job is still oversight. And we want to make sure that we provide them the money they need. But we're not going to take the taxpayer dollars and throw money at a problem and throw money just because they say so. We're going to check, why are you asking for it? Because now that we've been lied to, it kind of wakes you up to the fact, and you're going to monitor it very closely.